Prince Harry, in his latest string of lawsuits, has now lost his legal bid to challenge the British government's refusal to let him pay for his own police protection when he is in Britain. Harry, King Charles's younger son, was stripped of the police security usually afforded to royal figures in the United Kingdom after he and his wife Meghan Markle stepped down from their official roles in the year 2020 to move to the United States. The High Court in London last year already agreed that the Duke of Sussex should be allowed to challenge the original decision, which was to end his protection. But it rejected his bid for a second court review over the rejection of his offer to pay privately for the highly trained officers. The decision to remove publicly funded security was taken by the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, also known as RAVIC, which approves security for the royals and the VIPs, such as the Prime Minister of Britain. Let's try and get a sense of understanding in terms of what this will mean for the Sussexes. And for that, I'm joined in by CNN News 18's Sanjay Suri, who's joining me live from London. Sanjay, thank you for joining in. I know this dates back to the time when the royal Sussexes stepped down. Give us a background to this.
Well, you know, Prince Harry stepped down from his role as a royal, and therefore the palace, in recognition of that, and quite properly said that he is not a working royal anymore, and therefore certain titles and also a level of protection that was afforded to royalty will no longer be extended to him. So he was denied government protection, police protection while in Britain. He then made a move that he would pay for his own protection from the police, and now that has been refused, and that puts him in an odd place. He has been denied government security, and when he says he's prepared to pay for it and pay for the police, he has now been refused permission for that either. Now, this idea of paying for police protection must no doubt sound a bit awkward, and this has been the reasoning of the committee, and this is a reasoning that was presented in court by the government and finally upheld by the judge at the High Court. And the reasoning simply is that the police is not some sort of a private agency that can be hired out for protection of somebody who offers them money. This is not how the police work, and this cannot be a claim. The trouble with that argument is that this has been the practice quite often.
Right.
It's very common practice for, say, the police to be called to a celebrity wedding, and then the people who are hosting the wedding pays the police to be called to a big soccer match, and the people at the stadium pay the police for that protection. The reasoning there is that people say, well, this is protection for people who have a lot of resources. Why should we pay for the policeman to go and stand at those gates? Let them pay for it.
Sanjay,
so
it's very
that
interesting
has been the reasoning, but this has been denied.
It's very interesting that you speak about that reasoning, because I saw, you know, when I was reading the entire story, the Royal and VIP Executive Committee has also given the very same kind of intense reasoning. Do throw light on the kind of argument that has been presented by the RAVIC.
Well, this is in essence, the argument that the police cannot simply be hired out to somebody who offers money. The police are not a private security agency. Somebody pays them $1 million and pounds, and then they provide a certain level of security that is negotiated. This is not how the police work. The fact is that the police are on postings quite often at events where people who are hosting the events pay towards police presence, but the argument presented is that that is a call that has to be taken by the police. Let's take the example of Salman Rushdie. He was given protection by the police.
Right.
He ended up paying more than £1 million towards his protection, and the argument was, and this was the tabloid press went to town, Rushdie has so much money, why should we as the taxpayers pay for the police to give him a security ring? Let him use some of his own money. So this is a familiar rationale that is around, and it has been implemented.
Fair
but
enough.
The difference is that the police say, and the government says, it's the government that must take the call, not a claim by a private individual that will decide.
Absolutely. And having said that, that clearly goes on to say he can still invest in private security. But when we talk about that private security, let me come to the reports that were just doing the rounds of that very infamous car chase in New York, that involved the Sussexes. While there have been conflicting reports surrounding that incident, there's little to doubt that the Sussexes could be of interest to the paparazzi and to those with malified intent. What happens to their security in such a scenario?
Well, there is security, and no doubt the US firm that's providing him security there will accompany him on his visits to London, and there will be a number of such visits, and these are expected because he is expecting to appear and testify in person in the courts over several court cases, particularly involving tabloid newspapers whom he is pursuing. So he is not going to get attention just from paparazzi. That can be a nuisance, and as you pointed out, in New York, potentially not just harassing but even dangerous. And there is that level of threat, but there are also threats that Prince Harry has reported, that there are extreme right-wing people who are after him. There are a number of people who are compulsive, dedicated royalists who see him as one who has betrayed royalty and betrayed Britain, and they can get quite threatening. He needs protection from them as well. The trouble with the private security is twofold. The limitations are twofold. One, that as a foreign team or as a private team, even from Britain, there is a limit to the jurisdiction that they have. There's a limit to what they can do within the law. And second, most vitally, they do not have access to intelligence, which the police do. And intelligence is a very principal line of defense for security, and it would be for Prince Harry, and that is his prime concern. That is why he's looking for police protection. The government has denied it to him. He said, well, never mind, let them provide me the police security and I will pay towards that, and now that has been denied.
Right, and that certainly doesn't mean good news for the Sussexes. Let's see how that pans out for the Duke and the Duchess when they arrive in Britain. Many thanks to you, Sanjay Suri, for putting that entire news story into perspective for us.